We go to New York, where the New York PD ordered to slash overtime spending now to cover the cost of the migrant crisis. Huh. Well, that's interesting. They apparently are collapsing with about 100,000 illegals coming to Manhattan. Now, that's what they've received. They've gotten about 10,000 of those on a bus from Texas, thanks to our governor, Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott has sent the 10,000 in, and that is enough to collapse New York, apparently. But the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands here in Texas, nobody seems to care about. Well, there's some controversy going on because now the government is saying that they might pass a rule that if you come in and cross in Texas, you got to stay in Texas. The Governor Greg Abbott is with us now from the great state of Texas. I have to tell you, Governor, busing people from New York City, I loved it from the get-go, but I didn't think it would do much other than like a stunt, kind of like it ended up with Governor DeSantis in Florida with Martha's Vineyard. It felt good for a day, but didn't change anything. This is the biggest game-changing border policy I have ever seen in almost 50 years of broadcast. Thank you.
Well, of course, and it's not just what's going on with Mayor Adams in New York. Look at Lori Lightfoot in Chicago.
Yep.
Look at what's going on with Karen Bass out in Los Angeles. Listen, they're all reacting the same thing or the same way. They are all sanctuary cities. They've all told the world, we want your tired, your poor, your illegal immigrants, and we want them here. We're going to provide food and lodging for them. And then when they actually have to live up to these liberal promises they made, they collapse like a cheap tent. Let me tell you something. There's no way that the mayor of New York would be able to last a week in the state of Texas dealing with what we have to deal with. It's shameful the way they act. It's crazy the kinds of things they say. But it is time for America to have to share this burden that Texas has had to deal with.
How many do we have here in Texas now? I mean, I know he can't handle the 10,000 from Texas. There are towns in Texas that are getting at least 10,000, a day or a week. How many are actually here in Texas?
Well, first, I'll tell you that the catalyst for this busing operation actually wasn't to try to put burdens on New York. It was actually to try to help out those small communities on the border,
right?
The Del Rios, the Eagle Passes, the communities that the Border Patrol were dropping these illegal immigrants off. And we said there's no way that we're going to be able to deal with this. And so we began to put them on buses, initially going to Washington, D.C., and eventually New York, et cetera. But my point is that these illegal immigrants do not stay in Texas very long at all, a day, maybe 2 days. And then they are put on buses and bussed out to other areas across the country. That's what Texas is doing. In addition to what Texas is doing, in far greater numbers, the Biden administration is doing the exact same thing. So my point, Glenn, is that they're actually not staying in Texas very long at all.
So the Biden administration, how many are being shipped out from this just one border state to go elsewhere?
I can give you percentages. I don't have the precise number. The percentages would be, in the 90% range, 95% range.
Oh, my gosh.
There's not very many that are staying in Texas. And that is what is leading to the extraordinary volume that New York is dealing with, that Massachusetts is dealing with, that Illinois and Chicago are dealing with, that California is dealing with, et cetera.
So the Biden administration last week said that they were considering making sure that if you cross into Texas, you have to stay in Texas. If they did that, it feels like they're specifically, the federal government is specifically targeting Texas. Is that payback for what you and Paxton have put them through in the Supreme Court? Is that to change us blue? Is it to break our backs financially. Why this seeming vendetta against Texas?
Part of it, Glenn, does seem to be payback, and it's not just because of the busing operations. It's because what Texas has done, we have taken over operational control of the border and actually repelled or pushed back into Mexico people who were trying to cross illegally. We have been on federal land where we built these concertina razor wire barriers. It was the National Guard that did it. They build the barriers, and the National Guard guards it, and they force illegal immigrants to go back to Mexico. This is the only time in American history when anything like that has happened. And then, of course, you probably know about the buoys we put in the water and the marine barrier, and the Biden administration considers all of that to be evil when all Texas is really doing is protecting our own border. So my point in telling you that is, yes, the Biden administration has a vendetta against the state of Texas. But let me put it this way. The president is right in thinking that these migrants have to stay somewhere as opposed to going all across the country. He just got the location wrong. They shouldn't be staying in Texas. They should remain in Mexico. Remember, it was when President Trump put the Remain in Mexico policy into effect, that is what led to the immediate drop in the number of people coming across the border. And under President Trump, we had the lowest illegal immigration in 40 years. And now under Biden's open border policies, we have the highest illegal immigration ever. But then let me add one last thing, Glenn, and that is this concept of trying to, have illegal immigrants remain in Texas or remain in California, whatever the case may be. That was tried before decades ago, and it was rejected by the courts at the time. This is a losing legal proposition for Biden, and we'll just hand him another loss if he tries this crazy game.
So the buoys, what is the status on that? And if they start doing some of these things, what is Texas going to do to remain a sovereign state?
Several things. First, with regard to the buoys, as you and your audience may have heard, it went to well, first, I need to tell you this. The buoys were a concept that were first developed by the Border Patrol itself. And we got the idea from them, and we checked it out. We found it to be effective, and so we deployed it. And as the Border Patrol itself put out, there's nobody getting across it. The great thing about the buoys is it allows us to build a border wall or border barrier at 1/10 the cost of the border wall that Texas is actually putting up. And so it is a very effective tool. Secondly, with regard to the Biden's attempt to force us to remove the buoy barriers, that we lost in the trial court, which we knew we were going to do. But we, in less than 24 hours, got a stay of that lower court ruling by the Federal Court of Appeals. And as we are chit-chatting right now, the buoys are exactly where they have been ever since we put them back up. And we hope and believe that we will prevail in the Federal Court of Appeals. There are multiple legal reasons why what the Biden administration is contending is absolutely wrong. So we will continue to do that. But let me add this, because you said, what are we going to do? We are, as we are speaking right now, there is more border wall going up, which is the same border wall that Trump was putting up. But better than that, the tool that proved to be the most effective is having the National Guard on the border, building these concertina razor wire border walls that prevents illegal immigrants from getting across, and we repel them, we return them back to Mexico. That has proven extraordinarily effective, and the only time in American history that I'm aware of where a state has actually repelled people who are trying to enter the country illegally and sent them back to the country they came from.
Why do you, you must have spent a lot of time trying to figure out why would the administration do this? It clearly is not good for America. It's not good for the states, not good for the cities. We don't know who's coming in. where all people are coming from all over the world, including countries that have no love for America. Have you come up with a reason on why you think they're doing this? Why Biden is doing this?
So one thing you mentioned about some of the people coming across the border who have no love for America. So we apprehend Chinese and Russians and people from hostile nations all the time. And in fact, Glenn, under Joe Biden, there is a record number of people coming across the border who are on the terrorist watch list.
Correct.
And those are the ones that we apprehended. They pay more to try to evade being caught. Why is Biden doing this? First, when he campaigned for president, he said that he was going to have open border policies. And I think Americans really just didn't listen to him, maybe didn't know what he was talking about. And now they're seeing the reality. This is the Ocasio-Cortez game plan. And so here's what you and I don't know, and that is, who is running the White House? Is it Ocasio-Cortez leftists? Is it somebody else? It seems like Biden may not really know what he's doing. But if he does, it's the most unpatriotic act any president has ever taken in the history of the United States of America. So we've got several tasks ahead of us. One is Texas. Texas is using more than $10 billion of our own state funds to secure the border, and we will continue to do so as we work our way through this presidential election. And we have to put a president in place who's going to have as job one to uphold their oath, fulfill the constitutional mandate, that they secure the border and maintain national security so that we don't lose our country. And so I think Biden's days are numbered. And in those waning days, Texas will continue to step up and deploy every tool that we can possibly use that are unprecedented in nature to make sure we're going to be holding back and staunching the flow of illegal immigrants into the country.
I'm very concerned about this next election. Are we safe? Is the vote safe here? Have we done anything to strengthen the security of the vote?
Absolutely. Yeah. In Texas, for two separate sessions or two successive sessions, legislative sessions, we have passed the strongest election integrity laws in the United States of America. As a reminder, before I was governor, I was the attorney general, and I filed legal action after legal action, cracking down on voter fraud and putting people behind bars for it. And we continue to send that message. Separate from that, however, with regard to the election process itself, we have put reforms into place to make sure we have security. And let's go back to what happened just this past election. This past election, for your audience, those who don't know, we have 254 counties in the state of Texas. And let's say 253 of the 254 were able to get their votes counted on election night the way they were supposed to. The only one that was unable to do so, even in days, was Harris County. Harris County is where Houston, Texas is. And so this past session, we passed about 10 laws that cracked down on the way that the city of Houston and Harris County were not following the law as we had prescribed with regard to fair and accurate elections, making sure that the election process in Harris County was going to be even more secure.
Governor, I know you have to run. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you for bussing those people in again. You have completely changed the narrative. It is the only thing I have seen in my entire broadcasting career that has changed this narrative. It's a different game today because of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Take care.
Bye-bye. Governor Greg Abbott, great state of Texas.